this incident occurred and we started doing more investigations, and I'm talking about the people from our corporate office trying to figure out what exactly is going on, there wasn't a lot of concern about the incident itself. It was more of a concern about the branding. It was more a concern about how will the public take a look at what we have going on. Now, listen, I'm not going to say that I was a big safety person at the time, that I cared so much about, the well-being of everyone. I had a checklist that said, did we do this safety inspection? And I would go, okay, cool, let's move on with the world. But as we were going through the whole process, I realized that, yes, money is important. Don't get me wrong, because that's how corporations work. But when do we start caring about people making it back home? And that had been something that I had never really thought about at that particular moment in time. And that changed everything for me. That changed the way that I looked at everything, not realizing that I was starting to take these bigger dives into safety. But I started looking that direction, which was in a direction that I was looking at from the very beginning.
When things aren't going well, who are you? And to me, that leadership piece is a big thing, because they know how important it is, but they have to walk into those situations and do some work on what they're going to present as this is how we deal with this problem here. Right. And so it kind of to me, it meets in the middle, but you're also talking about mainly men and training men to be mindful in today's day and age, like it's not a one-off 45-minute session.
There are times I've observed where safety is actually serving a purpose to reduce the quality of the culture. I'll give you an example. I worked with a big municipality, and in their roads department, where they had a bunch of just regular pickup trucks and other heavy-duty equipment, they implemented a policy about how to put windshield washer fluid into a vehicle. And in some cultures, it would have been okay, but so they wanted people to wear a plastic smock, safety goggles, safety rubber gloves. And I mean, let's face it, every single one of us, and I don't want to dismiss good safety procedures, but every single one of us who's at home does not do any of those things when we add windshield washer fluid to our vehicle. And so then there's this kind of what feels to the front line an absurdity to have an expectation that we diminish our productivity and the reasonableness of the way we go about our work to satisfy some over-the-top barrier to productivity. And so there's this interesting dance to find what are the hard and fast, really serious rules, and at the same time, having us live and breathe the idea that safety is really important, but not rule-bound. It's tricky.
When something goes wrong, don't make your first question, what went wrong? Because that's going to put you on a real slippery slope from what went wrong to who screwed up. So instead, what he says is when something goes wrong, ask, okay, how does this job usually get done right most of the time? You start with how does it go right? Then you got the field expert saying, well, this is how we usually do it. And they're going to usually tell you a lot of information about how it goes right. And when they're ready, they'll say, but that's not what happened on Tuesday. And then they'll get into, here's what went wrong.
I think a lot of them think that risk identification, risk measurement is something that only a safety professional can do, and it's entirely not true. You can teach a line operator and a warehouse forklift driver how to assess risk in less than 5 minutes. I've done it. It works. They love doing it. And once they see the world with those eyes, you've got them. So it's how do you train people to start solving their own problems so they're engaged and they actually own the solutions of what's going to make them safer. And I think those are the three things. It's business, it's change, and it's engagement.
Guys and gals, don't be afraid to throw that stop work card. Raise your hand. Trust your gut. Trust the hair on the back of your neck, your instinct. If something's not right, if something doesn't smell right, if something doesn't feel right, For God's sake, stop what you're doing. There's nothing out there in your job that is worth you not going home at the end of the shift. I can't hit home on that enough.
We loved it. We found it was a relatable tool. 4 Ds. It's dumb, what's dangerous, what's difficult, and different. It was just 4 questions that you can ask people in any role, actually, as to open up conversation. And so we tried it. We started using it. We found a lot of success, and then so we started talking about the success that we found with it, and it's been very useful.
How much would you cover if your kid was in the bucket with you? If you had a small child, or I mean even a teenager, and they were in the bucket with you, how much would you cover? And as I've gone around and I've started asking linemen that, the number one answer, the most common answer is, oh, I cover all of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, do that. Do that every time. And it starts to kind of register and click, like, okay, I see what you're saying. And with leadership and kind of getting back to the moral obligation thing, when I heard someone use it this way. I played high school football, and a lot of linemen have played sports. And somebody said, "You ever go to football practice and the head coach not be on the field?" I started thinking back, and it's like, no, they were there every practice, no matter what. They were present, and they were leading things, and that kind of spurred that thought of moral obligation.
OSHA's, mainly they're going to fall under that general duty clause to keep your people safe, and then they get more in the weeds with electrical safety and different stuff like that. But, I think it's pretty clear that they rely on the 70E for the standard for electrical safety in the workplace. Mm-hmm. They use it for their citations and violations. They may not, they say, they're not saying we're going to enforce this, but they use it, right? And everybody knows that. And they have since about, 83, but the 70B, being pretty fresh, it's going to require you to have an electrical maintenance program, right? Where the 70 has an electrical safety program that we all know you need, right? Some people do and some people don't do it, but you're required to have that. And that's probably the first thing they're going to ask you when they show up after an electrical injury. We need to see your electrical safety program, because that's going to decide what they do or don't do after that, right? Mm-hmm. I think probably shortly, in the next few years, at some point, they're going to start looking a little closer at the electrical maintenance program. And if you have a piece of gear, say in a steel plant or some production plant, we've probably both seen a lot of that gear that's not in that normal condition, has not been maintained, and it's just flat out nasty, dirty, dented, greasy, mixed match breakers, available fault current not correct with the ratings on the breakers, and you have an accident with something like that. I think in the near future, OSHA probably will say, hey, tell us, convince us that piece of equipment has been maintained, right? And I think that electrical maintenance program is going to be, needed in the future.
Yeah. So the scenario you just described is not uncommon. Mm-hmm. You very rarely get the exact incident energy at the exact distance with the exact closing time in an arc flash. So the good news is wearing your arc rated clothing, even if it's technically less than the presented incident energy. One thing happens is you will still self-extinguish. You will not ignite, continue to burn. Now, that fabric will begin to fail at some point. All fabrics do. They have an arc rating based on an EBT and an ATPV. ATPV tells you the fabric was still intact at 1.2 calories per centimeter squared. An EBT tells you it started to break open. All fabrics do both. We record what happens first. Now that's a lengthy technical way to tell you your fabric will start to give way. Now, unless you are trapped on that and can't get away, you have already started to move away, so you're reducing the incident energy. Even though that fabric is now starting to expose, you've still not caught fire and continue to burn.
In order for U.S. employers to get better at reducing fatalities and injuries, we need to go beyond just simply complying with regulations and standards, but to incorporate risk assessment. And other countries that have done that for decades. And that includes countries like, well, all of the countries in the European Union, the UK, France, Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands, and others, all have a lower occupational fatality rate than the United States. And it's maybe due to a number of things. If it was a simple answer, we probably would be very quickly jumping onto that silver bullet, but it's not a silver bullet. But one thing that is different in the UK is for more than 40 years, they have put more emphasis on risk assessment after complying with the minimum requirements of codes and regulations. I call that it's the residual risk. The residual risk is the risk that's left after you've done the things that you feel it's important to do to reduce the risk.
I ended up touching an energized part of that high voltage compartment. Ended up being about 3,800 amps first shot, 4,000 amps second shot. Run me to the hospital, life flight, all that. Originally told me they was going to take the arm off from the elbow down, take all the fingers off. And one of the worst feelings was I had my FR, had my hard hat, but I didn't have my safety glasses on that day for some reason, and I wear contacts. And when that doctor looked at me, told me, all right, Mr. Spicer, we're going to end up, when you wake up from this, you're probably going to be blind. So that was a hard hit. Honestly, I had not considered. I had considered losing an arm and getting a hook or something like that, but I hadn't considered losing my eyes. So that whole process led me into the safety aspect of things.
I'm in a gym and there's literally a 220 Romex pigtail hanging out of the wall, and it's about, 4 to 6 inches away from some guy's leg as he's doing squats. And it's literally just hanging out of the wall, and I'm like, whoa, hey, I go to the lady at the gym. I'm like, stop what we're doing. We need to block this off over here. The sad part is the lady at the gym was just like oblivious to it. She's like, I didn't think that was a big deal. And I'm like, that's 220. That's a sweaty guy, a sweaty soldier over here doing squats. Yes. That's going to very much electrocute him. It's so weird that, people were not aware of how dangerous it was.
Imagine if I'm looking at my cell phone, not holding onto the hand railing while I'm walking down the stairs. All you would need to say is 4 simple words. I've got your back. And then it would trigger me to stop and think, why did that person just say that to me? Right? They're not filling in any other details. When you see someone that's doing something unsafe, as long as it's a fairly static situation, just say to them, I've got your back. And then they look around, they figure it out. They're like, cell phone, right? Hand railing, gotcha. Yeah, thank you. Hey, I've got your back too. And it's something that we can do to kind of, fix or improve this awkward situation that we have when we stage interventions. Now, if you have no problem staging interventions, wonderful, carry on. Don't stand on the top rung of the ladder. Get that off, right? You're gonna slip, you're gonna fall, just like my Uncle Frank did, with the Christmas lights last year. That's fine. But a lot of people, especially in this generation, they don't have that directness. So if I can get an entire work site with this option of I've got your back, it's a very soft intervention.